Hello everyone, Tucker here at BioWare Follower, and I'm here with a special guest. I'm here with JD from Freelancer Codex.
Hey, howdy.
And we are here to kind of discuss loot boxes in Anthem, just kind of what our thoughts are on them, how we hope they work, and just kind of general ideas from what they are like from other games. So, JD, you want to start us off here?
Well, yeah. I mean, when I think of BioWare and loot boxes, my mind first of all goes to the game, the multiplayer BioWare game that I've probably played the most, and that would be Mass Effect 3. And have you played? I'm pretty sure you played some of the multiplayer, right, Tucker?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. I used to play that quite a bit, and they did have loot boxes. However, it wasn't really a big problem because it was a cooperative multiplayer experience and not a competitive one. But I always felt like the ability to earn the loot boxes without having to spend money was reasonable enough. You know, like once you were strong enough, you could probably do about 3 gold matches and earn yourself an N7 crate.
I mean, yeah, I remember it didn't take that long to really get some of the good crates.
No, not at all. I think for bronze, if you played bronze a few times, I think that was about 10,000 credits a match. Maybe with a few thousand extra, depending on your performance or if everybody extracted or not. And I think the cost of the N7 loot crate was about 99,000. I'm a little outdated on. It's been a while since I played Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, but it was pretty close to that. And because the whole thing is you'd earn about 30,000, 35,000 a match for a gold match in multiplayer in Mass Effect 3. And so you would do about 3 of those, and then you would have just enough to get an N7 crate. However, if I remember correctly, the best way to unlock everything was to buy the cheapest crates first, because you unlocked all of like the base level items. And the whole thing is that it didn't give you duplicates. Like, it never gave you duplicates. So if you bought all the common boxes to the point where you just started unlocking nothing but once you've unlocked everything that was like the common level tier, then when you bought like high level boxes, you would get like all of the other stuff, all the higher, better, stronger gear and characters.
Yeah, I know that Halo 5 multiplayer has the same kind of aspect. Whenever you buy those cards, the rec cards, that it's the same kind of thing. You want to buy the lower ones and work your way up to them. And I'm kind of okay with that system. Like the way that it worked with Mass Effect 3, it was very easy to get points. It wasn't like it took 7, 8, 9 games to get enough to get a medium crate or something like that. It felt it was like every other game you could unlock a new crate.
Yeah.
I was fine with that.
And from my experience with Dragon Age Inquisition's multiplayer, it's the same for Inquisition. The only multiplayer BioWare game that I haven't really played a lot of has been Andromeda, and that was just more or less not necessarily a willingness or a lack of will to play it, but I just didn't have the time to sink into it like I once did.
I spent a decent amount of time on the Andromeda multiplayer, but right now I'm drawing a blank as to... I know that it had loot boxes as well, but I can't remember the consistency of opening them or things like that.
Yeah.
Can't. But, you know, obviously a big reason why this is such a big hubbub in the Anthem community is because of Battlefront 2. Which, yeah, it's a bit of old news. You know, insert a joke of how Follower is always late to getting news, and now we're like 2 or 3 months late. Anywho, it's still something that concerns fans because EA has been just littering games with loot boxes that you need to buy things with, and it's not just Star Wars Battlefront, but also the recent FIFA game, and I believe Need for Speed as well. That you both, if you're not buying loot boxes, you're going to be so far behind everyone else that it's almost going to be, it's just not going to be worth it to play.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience playing FIFA. I played a couple of Need for Speed games in the last couple of years, so I can't really say too much to that, but I'll definitely take people's words for it. I think the one solace in the situation is that BioWare has always kind of been the black sheep underneath EA. They ever since they were acquired back in 2007 by EA, they have always been they've always been very different from the other games, game developers that they had underneath their roof. And looking at how they've handled loot boxes as opposed to how other games have handled loot boxes, I'm not super worried about Anthem, if I'm being quite honest.
I mean, I'm always going to be worried, just because I remember in the interviews and stuff, they always talked about how Battlefront is going to have loot boxes, but it's not going to be prominent, that players will be able to unlock everything and all this stuff, and then the whole turnaround that actually was there. But I mean, I am confident that BioWare, especially with the huge backlash that EA got, I am pretty sure BioWare are going to make sure that does not happen, because Anthem is essentially what's holding, in my opinion. If Anthem fails, BioWare is done for. Because with the recent Mass Effect game, the backlash that got, that if Anthem doesn't do well, or if it receives such huge negative criticism, that BioWare is possibly going to be done for. So I imagine they're going to do everything they can to make sure that there's not any big controversies with the game.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I would necessarily take it that far, because they still have the Dragon Age game on the horizon, and according to EA, the release of Dragon Age Inquisition was the most successful BioWare launch ever. It sold more copies in its first week than any other BioWare game previous. So, I mean, I don't think it would necessarily be the end of BioWare, especially since the people that messed up in regards to Andromeda were BioWare Montreal, and those guys are gone now. I mean, they're still making games for EA, but BioWare Montreal, as we know it, or as we knew it, is no more. So I don't know if that would necessarily be the end of BioWare, but I do agree with the fact that EA and BioWare are definitely very aware of the fan backlash that happened regarding Battlefront 2, and I think that if anybody is as aware of it as I don't think anybody is as aware of it as the fans are, and as much as EA is, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it got to the point that the EA stock dropped dramatically. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it dropped big time. And Disney, like some of the head-up people at Disney, were reaching out to the higher-ups at EA going, we're going to remove the Star Wars license from you because of this. And I don't remember all the specifics, but it was something along the lines of Disney is threatening EA that they're going to revoke their Star Wars license. Like there was such a huge backlash from this.
Oh yeah.
And with that, but I mean, there's also a thing in the news that Anthem is going to have loot boxes, but the way that it does it is it's going to be cosmetic. Which, how do you feel about that?
Are we talking about the report that came out from the analyst, or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's not really a confirmation of loot boxes being in Anthem just yet, but like I said, I prefer if loot boxes are cosmetic. I think that that's the only real way to do it, because the whole thing is that I've always been of the mind that loot boxes should not be things that you need. Like, it's not something that's required to play the game. It definitely should be something that bolsters your enjoyment and, maybe makes your experience a little bit better or more enjoyable. But it should not be necessary by any stretch of the imagination. So, cosmetic loot boxes, I always feel, are the best, because the whole thing is that you don't need like a special armor skin for your javelin. You don't need a wooden javelin. You don't need a golden javelin.
Yeah, different
Yeah, you don't need any of that. But the whole thing is that you might want it anyways, because the whole thing is that you might like that particular pattern. I know one of your associates, a bio fan, would probably jump at the opportunity for golden armor. but you know,
and I'm pretty sure, and I would love if we cut out there. We got a bit disconnected, so I thought you finished talking, so I was kind of talking there. But no, keep going.
No. I just I went silent for a second. Go ahead.
All right. Something that, I mean, if there are loot boxes, obviously everyone would prefer cosmetic. But something that I would still feel would be great is that, say you could unlock the golden javelin or the wooden javelin or just different shaders and different all that stuff. If you could still unlock those in the campaign, but they're more difficult to get. That way, you know, you can still grind to earn them, or you can pay to get them. There's still that it's still cosmetic, so it's nothing too bad, but you know, it's still an option for, I don't want to spend $1.99 on 5 random shaders, but I really do want a gold javelin. It's like, okay, well, you can grind for it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Some of the discussion that we had about it on Twitter the other day, I mentioned that my general, when it comes to microtransactions specifically, my general opinion is I prefer systems more like Warframe and Grand Theft Auto 5, where it allows you to buy the things that you want directly. It's a direct buy system. So
that'd be nice.
Yeah, like I wouldn't mind paying for that, because the whole thing's that it's good for the players, it's good for the developers, because players get to buy the things that they want. You know, like if they specifically want like this kind of skin or whatever, then they buy it. You know, they don't have to open up a bunch of boxes in hopes of getting it. It's like, no, you just buy what you want. And then this tells the developers, okay, this is the type of content that they're buying. This is the type of content that they're willing to pay for. So let's make more along those lines. And if you look at GTA 5, you see that trend where the game came out, they started putting out updates, and then as they put out a bunch of new things, a bunch of kind of like test content to kind of like test the water, see what people were interested in and what they wanted to buy. And then you saw future updates being influenced by that. So like you had like some cool cars in the last update, like these cars could be modified with weapons and extra mobility options and that sort of thing. And the most recent update saw a huge influx of these cars, because it's like, okay, well, these are selling really well. Let's give them more options in terms of this. And I like that. I really like that. You know, I know Warframe uses it a ton, because, you know, they see like, oh, we have weapons that have multiple modes, multiple firing modes and such. And so to give players what we want, since that is selling really well, we'll add in more kinds of guns of this type. And then we'll also throw out a few experimental guns here and there and see how they perform. And if those perform well, then we'll put out more of them. It's a very win-win situation for players and developers. I mean, you don't need microtransactions, but if you're going to do them, if you're going to have them, I think that's the way. And that's all bolstered by the fact that you can unlock them on your own without real money after the fact.
Yeah, so I do like that idea of having the direct buy, and I'm trying to think of, if they were to implement that in Anthem, if certain weapons, again, if they were available to just naturally get in the game, if you could directly buy them, if Anthem just remains cooperative, not competitive, how would you feel about that? If you could get Jara's Wrath by spending 50 cents or something like that. 50 cents or $1.
I'm not necessarily sure that I would partake in that. I know with games like Warframe and Grand Theft Auto 5, that the great equalizer has always been that, yeah, you can buy these particular weapons if you like, or these particular cars, or, you know, like, you can buy these weapons if you want. But because you're specifically buying those weapons, it's probably more expensive than just buying a loot box. So that's kind of the trade-off. So it's like, okay, a loot box might be like, you know, 2 or 3 loot boxes might be $5. But if you want to buy, like, for example, the new DeLorean-like car in Grand Theft Auto 5, that costs about $3.5 million, and in order to get that, or I think it's like 3.2, 3.5 million, you would have to pay about $20 in terms
Damn.
of... Yeah, no. GTA 5 is a very expensive example. So it can get a little bit ridiculous, but the whole thing is that the direct buy is usually like it's a time saver, more or less. Like, you can still earn that $3.5 million by playing the content, playing the games, and it would take you significantly longer because, of course, you know,
doing heists, first off, doing the mission, it'll take you 30 minutes to an hour if you're doing like one of the heists, and even that, you're getting a couple $100,000, so you gotta do that a few times. So you can still do it, or you can just throw a few dollars here.
My personal favorite alternative is Warframe, where instead of buying something, so like let's say you go to like the Platinum store, the premium shop in Warframe. Let's say, for example, you see something like the Atlas Warframe, and you really like it. So right next to the purchase button, like purchase with Platinum, which is their premium currency, is purchase blueprint. It's like right underneath the option for that. So it tells you like, okay, this costs like 400 Platinum. Buy the blueprint for $35,000 or 35,000 credits. So if you buy the blueprint instead, you get the blueprint for the Warframe, and then it's up to you to kind of go around and unlock the pieces and craft the pieces necessary to build the blueprint. Now, this is also bolstered by the fact that the more you play Warframe, you might have already received the crafting parts for it already, but you just didn't have the blueprint for it. And you need the blueprint to build the final version. So you might already have the parts you need and all the resources you need to craft them, but now that you have the blueprint that you purchased from the shop, instead of using Platinum, you use like money you earned in game, and then you just craft it. It takes about anywhere from about 12 to 48 hours, depending on how powerful the frame or weapon is. And I feel like that's a pretty good alternative, because it's like, yeah, you may not. You could have paid $20 for a new Warframe, or $40 for a few new things in Warframe, but you had to spend a good amount of time that I feel is equivalent to the amount of money that you would have spent anyways.
Yeah, and I would hope this too, that if Anthem has loot boxes, which again, how you said it is unconfirmed, I'm 95% sure there's going to be loot boxes in Anthem.
I'm 100% sure that Anthem is going to have microtransactions in some form.
Yeah. That's what I was really meaning. It's microtransactions, but if it goes the same route as Halo, Titanfall, I think this was the initial idea with Andromeda, or it's in Andromeda and Mass Effect 3 as well, is that they have the microtransactions in the game, so now some of the DLC is free.
Yes.
Like Halo 5, albeit all the DLC for Mass Effect 3 that was free were multiplayer. Same thing with Andromeda, which only had multiplayer DLC. Titanfall and Halo 5 also only have multiplayer DLC, but it's free because of the microtransactions. We still have there's still such small news of Anthem. We don't know if it is going to have a multiplayer thing, maybe like Destiny. We don't know how it's going to work, but if they have microtransactions, if they say because of the microtransactions that DLC is going to be free, or it's going to be cheaper at least than some of the other things, because game development is expensive. And people will say, oh, games in the past didn't have microtransactions, it didn't have this or that or things like that. But, games nowadays take millions and millions and millions of dollars to make, while 10, 15 years ago weren't as expensive. So developers have to find a new way to balance out that cost. But if they go, oh, here's some microtransactions, but because of it, the DLC is still going to be, you have to pay for it, but instead of $20, it's $10. Something like that. Or, the multiplayer maps for Anthem, again, if they have a multiplayer thing, kind of like Destiny, it's going to be free because of the microtransactions. Just something to help, just something to show we're not just putting this in just to make more money. We're doing it, and then because of you guys being who you are, we'll let this also be free as a way to balance things out.
Yeah, and feel free to correct me on any of this, because you know more about game development than I do.
My master's and bachelor's degree would agree with that.
But the whole thing is that game development is not quite the same kind of job that, you know, gamers or their parents might work. The whole thing is that in game development, the basic kind of benefits that usually come with most jobs aren't always guaranteed. You know, that's always been the big part of it. You know, because well, I mean,
yeah,
go ahead.
The benefits that you get from game development all depend on how well the game sells. Which there are some companies that are like that. Like if you work in any kind of prototyping or things like that, that it could possibly come up like that. But from people that I've talked to and just from the education I've been learning is that you do get paid a decent amount for working in the gaming industry, but the benefits and other things like that are all from how well your game does, how well it hits deadlines, how well it does this and that. And to do that, developers will occasionally work 40 to 60 hours a week. And some of them that I've talked to have even worked even more, like 80 hours a week, to hit those deadlines to make the game as best as they can.
Yeah, and so, when I see the comparisons made between Andromeda and let's say The Witcher 3, because they had very similar development budgets, there's a lot of things that are kind of being ignored in terms of that line of logic, which is the fact that the cost of labor in Poland is lower than
significantly
Canada,
lower,
and the United States. Yeah, it's significantly lower. And the other thing is that, like, especially in the recent months, like there have been some allegations regarding
the development time.
Yeah, well, the development time and the development and the conditions, the working conditions at CD Projekt Red, and the whole thing is that so EA, you know. Like, people are saying, oh yeah, you know, like, game developers don't need that much more money and that sort of thing. But when you look at people like EA, like, I'm pretty sure the people at BioWare while working under EA, I'm pretty sure they have access to, well, I mean, they're Canadian, so of course they have healthcare. But, you know, things like vacation time, dental coverage, severance packages if they need them, grievance time, maternity leave, like basic benefits that you would be guaranteed working a regular, more standard 9-to-5 job, that you don't necessarily get as a game developer, or at least something that's not always guaranteed. So
there's also something. I'm sure this is not just to EA, but it is called the EA spouses. Have you ever heard of that?
I don't think I have. Please enlighten me.
EA Spouses was a letter that was written by some spouses of EA employees talking about how they haven't seen their significant other in like a week because they are working 80-hour work weeks to the point where they'll sleep at the company. They'll bring a sleeping bag or sleep on a couch to sleep there because it'd be a lot faster to take a few hours nap on a couch and then get back up and go right back to working. So they haven't seen their loved one, significant other, their families for like a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because of that. Or if they do see them, like it's sure they haven't seen them in a week, but they might quickly come home to shower. But you know, they're here, they're there, and then they leave. So, yeah. We went a bit off topic here, but essentially the whole conversation of it was game development has become more expensive, so that is part of the reason of microtransactions. I am sure some of the reason is for greed, because you know it's a lot easier to spend $1 and than it is to spend $15 or $20 on DLC, and then from there, oh, it's just $1, and then next time, oh, it's just a few dollars. And
yeah,
then,
you look at EA, like EA executives and their bonuses and that sort of thing, and you're like, you could trim off a top. Well, you could trim that off a bit, a little bit.
So I'm sure, absolutely sure, some of the stuff is greed, but for the most part, microtransactions are as a way to help balance out game development, as well as some of the microtransactions from Anthem will go to the development of the next game, either Anthem or Dragon Age 4. That's typically how some things work, that the microtransactions from one game goes to maintaining that game, but it also goes into the budget of the next game.
Yeah, it's used as capital for new or at least if it works anything like the film industry does, usually what happens is the success of one game ends up paying for the failure of others, as well as capital for the next line of concepts. So
yeah. So so kind of bringing this all back. If Anthem has microtransactions, there is a reason for it, but, and this isn't just you or my hope, this seems like the big majority of the community. If you have microtransactions, don't make it intrusive in the game that you, like, all the best things are locked behind a microtransaction so that you can unlock those things, as well as, you know, make the game with the player in mind. Don't make the game with the player's wallet in mind. Which is something that it seems like some games have been created that way, that it had in mind of the player's wallet and not the players themselves. So we are asking the designers, the producers, the developers at Anthem, or at BioWare working on Anthem, you know, we know that you love your community. Please keep them in mind as you're working on this, not the wallets. Yeah. So.
Yeah, if you're gonna have loot boxes,
and we love you guys too. If
you're gonna have loot boxes, please make them cosmetic. I mean, I love BioWare. Like they are easily my favorite game developer because they have made some of the games that have not only changed my life but also gotten me through some really, really hard times. And so I want to see them succeed. So be careful with the loot box situation, guys. Like, I love you, but I don't want to see pay to win.
I hate seeing BioWare's name be brought up negatively in a manner. Just because, like, just like you, like, BioWare, playing Mass Effect, that's what got me into wanting to make games, both that and Halo. But playing those games made me go, you know, I want to make this. And then playing Mass Effect and doing all that stuff, I was so curious as how they did this stuff, that BioWare, because of the games that they made, put me where I am today, of becoming a game designer, of going to school for all the stuff. So I don't want something to happen to BioWare. So it's, oh, you know, this game is also littered with microtransactions and destroyed, like how Star Wars Battlefront was.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, man.
So do we have anything else that you want to talk about with the loot boxes or microtransactions?
No, I think we've said all that needs to be said, really.
Because we are hitting at an unedited time of about 28 minutes. This is unedited. It's probably going to be a lot, not a lot shorter, but just little snippets of things. Okay. But if that's about all, JD, do you have anything else that you want to plug your podcast or something in here?
Oh yeah. Like he said, I'm JD. I'm from the Freelancer Codex. We have a podcast. You can find it on Podomatic. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, and
oh, shit, you guys are on iTunes?
Yeah, we're on iTunes.
Solid.
Yeah, it's pretty rad.
What? Keep going.
Oh yeah. We have a Discord now. We should have a subreddit pretty soon. So if you're a fan of Anthem, you're a fan of BioWare, come check us out. We're really excited for Anthem. We keep the conversation going, even when there's not a lot of news to go on. And you know, hey, just if you come on over,
check them out.
Yeah, check us out.
And I will definitely provide a link for your podcast as well as your Discord channel in the description down below. But if that is about all, let us know your thoughts on loot boxes and microtransactions, not just in Anthem, but just in general. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below, as well as you can reach out to Anthem Codex on Twitter, as well as BioWare Follower on Twitter. But you know, definitely, we also want to know what your opinions are as well on this. And again, to any BioWare employees listening, you know, we love you, but you know, please, just please,
be careful.
Be careful. All right. See y'all in the next video.
Later.